The Spanish Announce Table.
It is episode 308 of the Spanish Announce Table. Tom, I hope you are doing well. It looks like you are in your dungeon. What do you call that there? Do you call it the man cave, or do you call it...
No, because anyone's allowed here, right? Because, like, Emily, my wife, she can come down here. It's not just men only. It's not like the no ma'am club from Married with Children.
No ma'am.
Yeah. But no, it's anyone's welcome. It's just my little place of fun trinkets and
Does it have a
memorabilia.
name?
No. It just
just the basement, huh?
Just the basement. Just the place where I record the greatest podcast recorded on a Thursday night.
Tom, it hit me. I was on a virtual networking event today. Got plugged in through some mutual friends to a networking group that's doing it virtually during COVID times. And I was telling them about the podcast, and I said, we are humanity's best podcast about humanity's best performance art, professional wrestling.
You ain't lying.
You know what I'm saying?
You ain't lying.
So here we are, and we're getting this one off. Took a little tinkering around, setting up with some, tech.
Well,
because
that's what I was going to ask you. Where are you? So you know where I am, right? We've been doing Spanish Announce Table relaunch 11.6. By now, you know where I'm at. It might be upstairs in the library. It might be down in the basement. But where are you?
Yeah, and Tom, it's a good question because if anybody's listening to the audio-only version of the podcast, you may not see behind me that, I'm not in my usual location. I don't have the green screen up with, a funny background.
Right.
I am on the road. I am on a trip, and I am staying at the Four Seasons here. Total Landscaping Company, Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say, that doesn't look like a Four Seasons.
But it's a little, things got a little mixed up with the booking. But that happens. I mean, it happens to the smartest of folks.
Well, and what you're saying is you made the honest mistake, which people do that every single day, but instead of course correcting, you doubled down.
It was going to be a lot of work, to then go back to the Four Seasons. The rates would have rose, and I got a sweet deal.
You stay in that garage?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about. But the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company is set me up with a sweet deal. I'm right here between the fire extinguisher and the hose.
Not the first time.
Right. But we've got a lot of things to talk about. We've got big things to talk about. And so we couldn't hold this, they're allowing me to set up tech here at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company.
If there's one thing that the Four Seasons Total Landscaping is known for, it's hospitality to visitors who are trying to make a podcast. That is definitely for sure.
Well, yes. Again, big announcements to make, and we've got to do it here at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company. And that is, one of the announcements is, any long-term listeners know of the community feel this show used to have.
Oh, boy, it did. And then we got tired of it, but it's coming back.
We thought we were going to switch things up. I was trying to maintain a public appearance for certain things as well. But we would like to encourage folks to begin. Folks have asked if they could email the show again. We would like to extend that offer again. Email the show. Let's not have an email that I've got to print on 2 pieces of paper or something.
Well, here's the other thing, though, because now it's very important that you're making this announcement at the Four Seasons Total
Landscaping Company.
And that's because since you're a traveling man going to all the most important places, we need to have emails that are according, right? So let's not get red in the face with vulgarities to where we can't say it to coworkers, right? Or in Tim's case, traveling networking events.
All of my fellow Americans should be able to watch and listen to the show and not be too revolted other than by our natural appearance.
Which, we're trying.
We are trying. I'm wearing a collared shirt.
I'm wearing a hat.
You are wearing a hat. So yes, emails, the tweet the tables. Let's hit those up again. We've got 2 now because, again, we have not been doing a good job of making sure that we've been getting into those. But we want to, we want those. Again, we want to have this kind of, help us drive this show, right? There was a lot of good input from the fans and some zingers, and we'd like to hear some of that again.
Right? So I said we got tired of it. We got tired of it in this sense. There were certain tweet the tables, which all of them were fun to read, but it's hard to respond when you ask us, what do we think of the new sunglasses Joey Janela is wearing, for example? Like, that wouldn't be a good tweet the table for this week's podcast because, 1, Joey Janela wasn't on Dynamite or Full Gear, but also, 2, what do you want, right? Like, that's a hard thing to, let's conversational pieces, informational pieces. If you know the independent name of the guy in Top Flight who's going to be wrestling the Young Bucks next week, cool. That's something we would want to know. If you want our opinion on his new Nikes, we're probably not going to read that one. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind as we kind of relaunch 11.6 Spanish Announce Table at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping in the basement. We're bringing back the emails. We're bringing back tweet the tables, but we're doing best of the best. Okay. We're not just saying, hey, because you tweeted a table, you're getting on. Maybe not.
And you know us, we've said, the caveat is we don't mind R-rated. We're trying to avoid an NC-17 rating or NC-17 rating, right, if you will.
Right.
But
you can also be angry, right? We're not saying you have to be polite.
I'm angry all the time.
Yeah, I mean, guys, how long have you guys heard me get angry? I got angry before this call even started because of people.
Do you know how angry I got when I found out that this Four Seasons, the Total Landscaping Company, did not have a continental breakfast? It was almost a deal breaker, and I almost went back to the Four Seasons hotel. But the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company still the sweet deal and the tech setup.
As they
the Wi-Fi here.
Yeah, you haven't dropped yet, and usually you drop about 2 or 3 times, so that's pretty great. But again,
this thing right here, it's right below the fire extinguisher right here. Mm-hmm. It's a Wi-Fi box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But again, to clarify our statements here, don't feel like you have to be proper and needing to only say appropriate things in this kind of tone. And Tim and Tom, would you please elaborate on the match between Kenny Omega and John Moxley? Like, shut the fuck up, right? Yeah. But again, we're also not saying, let's put it in the blah, blah, blah. We're not getting there.
And so for the new listeners, what we mean by tweet the tables is hashtag tweet the table. If you're on Twitter, or even if you're on, if you've got a similar short form content you want to get to us, you can go to our website, SpanishAnnounceTable.net, find all of our social media links. There is also a contact page. So if you don't know the email, you don't need to know it. Go to our SpanishAnnounceTable.net. There's a contact link. It'll filter right to our emails. Or you can use an email, tableshow@gmail.com. On Twitter, use hashtag tweet the table. Anytime you got a wrestling thought, if you're watching the show and you're like, Joey Janela looks like a jackass in those new sunglasses, send us tweet the table, right? We may read it, we may not, right?
But we may not, right?
But we may. And we're going to say who you are. We're going to talk about you. Let's build this community again, right? You're going to see other like-minded folks using hashtag tweet the table. We're going to talk about you on the show. We'll talk to you more. You can say things like, hey, this is stupid, guy. What kind of jackass would put out any kind of content from the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company? Who, with any self-dignity or respect, would put out something so important as this show from the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company? You can say whatever you want. Anything like that, right? And use hashtag tweet the table when you do it, and everybody will love you. You're going to make new friends.
Hey, there you go. Or you're going to reconnect with old ones. Hey, so let's get
into the news. And make sure you follow Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company, our generous hosts.
Oh, okay, cool. Might do that. I probably won't. Hey, so let's get into it. There's a lot of things to cover, a lot of major happenings for AEW. Yeah. So, right, they had a big, huge pay-per-view on Saturday night, another jam-packed episode of Dynamite. But before we get into both of those events for AEW, they also had some breaking news. in the video game world. Tim, I believe you had the announcement. Let's share with the listeners and viewers what that news is.
Yes, and I will read some intermittently. I may jump in and out of this article that I have pulled up here from Bleacher Report, and this is AEW announces console mobile gaming options for wrestling brands. So AEW had been talking about this AEW Games 1.0 or whatever and telling everybody to watch, and I'd forgot about it. And Tom, you sent me the link on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and that was it. And I just checked it out, and I was like, oh, I watched the whole thing. If you have not watched it, I would suggest going to AEW's YouTube page and checking that out. While you're there on YouTube, I can suggest another great YouTube page. We are the Spanish announced Tube, right? But their thing, the whole idea of them all coming out as Steve Jobs was great. None of them expecting the other one to come out. And all of them, when they got hired with a contract, they were like, no, only if I can be involved, right? I love all the little details. This is what AEW is good about, and we'll talk about this later in other parts of AEW, but the little details, they don't lose those, right? Whereas some of the competition at WWE is so enormous now, and they've got so much content they're churning out that maybe they do, right? AEW, though, the details of all of this were great. Kenny Omega first introduces the console game, and then I think it was Britt Baker, the first mobile game. Yes. Or no, she was the T-shirt. Right. But we'll go on. I'll read some of this article.
Aubrey was the mobile game. Britt Baker was the T-shirt. Cody was a casino game. That was, of the four, was the only one I was a little bit confused on. I'm assuming it's a mobile casino game.
I think it's a mobile casino game, which kind of fits their
double or nothing, all in, right. Vegas kind of theme. But let's talk real quick. So as you mentioned at the start, Kenny Omega releases early video game footage. As it stated before the video game footage, it said this is still early. It could change. But what we saw there, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and then Shida coming in, beating up Kenny Omega, which I thought she would have beat up Jericho. Felt like that was more of a natural fit. But I guess because Kenny Omega has wrestled females, it was more of a natural, we've seen this kind of thing before, even though it was a video game. But before all that, what did you think of the video game footage that we saw?
It looked... I was a little underwhelmed, if I can say so, like from the graphic standpoint. But they did say, hey, this isn't final. But I thought if you're showing it to me, it's probably not too far off from final.
Right.
And I don't like when they do the video games where things look disproportionate from reality, right? Like everybody looks like they have a barrel chest and these ginormous arms, right?
Well, that's what they alluded to, is that this is the same guy who made WWE No Mercy. And if you go back to WWE No Mercy, that was the same kind of thing. Everyone was blocks and everyone had square shoulders and everyone had the big elbows and the weird forearms, the whole thing. So maybe we're getting a callback to No Mercy to be like, hey, that was so fun. They look similar. I was just not impressed. I was just happy that it wasn't trying to look too outrageous. It was trying to stay more true to what you see on TV. Sometimes, for example, if you look at WWE Battleground, the new video game from WWE that they've skipped over 2K, that's too much, right? You got Undertaker turning blue, the Fiend turns like a bright red, and it's like cartoonish wrestling. And I thought maybe AEW would go that route because they would say, hey, wouldn't this be fun if Kenny Omega could give you, his finisher from the top of a building or something?
We are in the comic book era of wrestling, as we're starting to kind of figure out, right? So maybe, but this one, as you said, is more like No Mercy. I'm not the video game guy. I have stopped playing wrestling video games for probably over a decade now, so I'm not the guy to do it. I haven't even played a video game in months, and when I do, it might be Madden, and I have felt the urge recently, like I should pick up play a video game or two. But I know you can't play like Madden without playing a season, right? Or a dynasty, and I don't have that kind of time. So I'm definitely not going to go buy this game. I am interested way more in this Elite General Manager mobile game.
Okay.
This looks good.
All right, let's get into that then. Yeah, what do you think about this? One thing I'll say about the mobile game, is that Aubrey has a background in developing mobile apps and mobile video games. So of all the things that were announced, that I think has the most promise because it has the most expertise behind it. Now, I know the guy built No Mercy, so that's obviously gives you some legs to stand on as far as credibility. But with Aubrey, I just feel like, okay, she's in the company and she can do this. Like, that's a good apples to apples help with the lift of this game. It seemed interesting. I sometimes, unlike you, I'm more of a console guy where it is, let me go through and capture the heavyweight championship through a career mode. Where I start to check out is on the mobile because, this thing has 1,900 things on it other than the video game. So I start to go like, well, I wonder what Instagram's doing, or I wonder what Twitter's doing. What's hashtag tweet the table? I'm going to go to that. And so then I just I haven't clicked on that video game in a while because social media apps. So it did look cool, but talk a little bit about the GM game.
That does fit more my style currently. That's kind of if I have any ability to like social media or gaming, it's like I've got 5 minutes now, I've got 2 minutes later. So the mobile gaming might fit better in that. I like this idea of it is that, right? Like you're trying to book a show and score higher and see what you can do. And I thought you would be drawn to this from all the T-Mac story time stuff and your just natural inclination for like, I could do it
I am.
You can.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to get this game. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm, in my mid 30s, so I grew up with the console and not the mobile games. So that's where I just lean more console because that's what I'm used to.
The console is not even like it's upstairs with my son at this point. And I'm just like, I'm not going. I'm not going up. It's filthy up there. I ain't going.
The one thing that I was hoping for, honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, is I hope, even though the GM game will have its own mobile app, I hope in the console you could do GM mode. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. I could be drawn if somebody told me like this is amazing, but I might go buy that console game. But I know we're now moving into this like PS5, and I'm faced with this I'm faced with this. I am in my early 40s. I'm 40, and I'm going, oh. Am I at this point where I never buy another video game console now? Because I'm like, I don't play the video game console, right? Now I could, right? When the kids move out and I've got way more free time, maybe that kind of thing, but that's several years out. So now I'm like, maybe I skip this one, right? Or maybe if we get a PS5, it's because my son got it, right?
Right, yeah.
But I'm definitely not going to buy it. So now I know they said you can still get it for the PS4. The existing consoles and stuff, but I'm not going to do that. Right? I'm not going to spend $65 on that, right?
I like how you've just given up.
So I need somebody to tell me, like, I need you to be like, I bought this fucking game. It's great. I can play like general manager where something's like, because what I don't like, the thing about wrestling games is, it's fun, but it's way more fun when I was younger and we were all in a room together and we were drinking and I'm beating your ass.
Right.
And you're like, all you do is bounce off the ropes and fucking clothesline me. And I'm like, yeah, but it works, right? Like, or whatever, right? Like, whatever the thing is, right? Be like, I'm just too fat. Like, or you build your own character to some niche thing and they can't stop it, right? Like, all that kind of fun stuff. Or you'd make yourself, right? Like, and get the beard on a guy and go, right.
Console games are definitely more for the community type of tournaments in a dorm room or in an apartment or at Up Down. Shout out to Up Down. Hopefully once COVID measures are taken serious and we can get back to actually being in public safely, we could go back there and maybe that's where we could do our console AEW game.
Maybe, right.
The other thing that was released was the casino game. What about the casino game? This is the thing where it was a little bit left field. Like you said, it does fit with the marketing of it, but I don't think wrestling fan blackjack.
So true, but I have at times when I've had mobile gaming had things like Texas Hold'em or like Zingos, whatever that is. I go on there. Some of that was always like, man, I don't have time. When I started getting away from that, it's like, I don't have time to sit here for 20 minutes, wait on players, like that kind of stuff. So I stopped kind of doing that. But if there was an AEW themed one, that's probably what I'm going to go with first if I'm trying to play something like that again. So I think what you're going to get is your AEW fans might gravitate to that, the ones that are inclined to play that kind of stuff, right? I don't think you're going to pull in anybody that isn't already AEW leaning. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how detailed this one might be. This one might be like a cheaper game, if you will. Like maybe they didn't produce this one as high end, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, so I'm thinking maybe this game is going to get the older 50 and over crowd to be exposed to AEW, because when I think of Texas Hold'em on a laptop or some type of, Kindle or whatever it may be, Kindle's just for reading, but you know what I'm saying? All that crap.
I think you can access
iPads, all that stuff,
games,
right? Yeah.
Right.
But what I think of when I see an iPad with the Texas Hold'em on them, Hold'em on it is my dad. My dad plays that, and he'll fall asleep in his chair, and he'll wake up. I won $2 million on blackjack or Texas Hold'em, whatever it is. So maybe that's how they get this 50 and over crowd, is all these old fogies that found a new casino game. Well, who's this Kenny Omega I lost to? Let me check him out. Boom, 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 boom. Maybe. That would be cool.
Maybe.
The thing that I was the most underwhelmed with, though, because I really loved everything. I loved the Steve Jobs jokes. I loved how everyone called him TK. I loved how Cody was like, I'm not going to sign that unless I do video games. He's like, you don't know shit about it. And he's like, you're right. And so he still signed it. Loved the whole thing. I liked the console graphics that I was shown because it was early on. But the t-shirt was the only thing where I was like, you just had a square and you put AEW, and then in whatever font you found, you wrote games. Like, that's not even anyone could have done that shirt.
Yeah, and I don't.
Was that a rib?
I think so.
Okay, because like she was in a Gucci belt and in like a designer T-shirt, and then this fucking shirt looked like a goddamn Walmart knockoff.
Okay, I am going to talk about a story with a local tie to us, because sometimes what they said was right. From a distance, that T-shirt is great. Like, what they talk about with a logo, when you're making a logo, is you need to think about scalability, right? It needs to be able to be recognizable from a distance, but people also need to be able to like put it in a fucking email and shit like that. And so it's difficult. She was right in that regard. So let's talk about a local marketing firm in Overland Park, Kansas, which is a part of Kansas City metro area here.
Where here, not where you're
right.
At. You're at the Four Seasons.
Right. I'm at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company. Right there between the fire extinguisher and the hose. Where all intelligent leaders and prominent members of society produce great communications, right?
Always.
Highest of standards here. Again, Wi-Fi box. Right, it's like a weatherman. Right here. we got a cold front coming in here, Tom. All right, so where were we? All right, so this Overland Park, Kansas company, they get tasked with, what are we going to name the NCAA college football playoff, right? They pay them several $100,000, close to $1 million, to come up with a name and logo for the NCAA college football playoff. And Tom, you know what the college football playoff is called in the NCAA?
Probably the college football playoff.
It's called the college football playoff. And the logo is a football. Tom, they stole like $1 million from these people. And hey,
they went
boy,
with
it's the college football playoff.
Yeah, someone signed off on that. So
AEW Games, you need a T-shirt? Put AEW Games on it. Thanks for the check, assholes. Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company. Yeah. I'm saying.
Yeah. So that was the big announcement. I don't know if any necessarily release dates were announced from the press release that you're seeing. I don't think. Did you see anything there? I think they mentioned winter.
They just said it's coming. Yeah, winter. They did say.
So be on the lookout. Hopefully around Christmas time, that would be a great get, to be able to get that underneath your stocking or in your stocking or under the Christmas tree, whatever you celebrate. But let's get into now the pro wrestling part of AEW, because it is all elite wrestling. On Saturday, as I mentioned, it was AEW Full Gear. And as you can catch on our YouTube channel, I did an instant reaction. I was very exhausted. That was probably the most exhausted I've been in front of a camera in my life. And then a few days later, we had a less than instant reaction from Tim. So now that we're here together on the proper Spanish announce table, a quick overview. What was your general feeling leaving Full Gear going into Dynamite? Was this a all-time classic pay-per-view for you? Is this a drive-by where we're fast-lane and just getting to the next thing? What did you think?
I like this one a lot. I think it was one of the better ones they've had. Now, if you want to call that an all-time classic, maybe. That'll be as we get more of them, maybe. But
Right.
I really like this one. I watched several parts of it multiple times. I would show people parts of it with how good I thought it was. I think they really hit a lot of home runs on this one. They did well with Full Gear.
I thought it was good. As I mentioned in my instant reaction, the only portion that I felt that should not have been a part of Full Gear was the Matt Hardy Sammy Guevara match. I felt like, for a couple of reasons. One, if you were clocking that pay-per-view, it was 3.5 hours. And one of the biggest criticisms we have of WWE is, Jesus Christ, this is the length of a Lord of the Rings movie. Can we tighten this up? Right? And so I understand with their pay-per-views, because they're not every month, some matches need to breathe a little bit more. And I thought those matches in the ring did that job well. Kenny Omega and Adam Page got the appropriate amount of time. John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, I felt got the appropriate amount of time. But with that being said, you're at 3.5 hours, and Matt Hardy, Sammy Guevara, I felt could have been, especially with COVID spikes, things like that, you may need to have Dynamite fill some time, and you could have had this in the can and said, now we're going to do the Ultimate Deletion match on Dynamite. People will pop for that because, again, it had all your IWC favorites, right? It had Gangrel, it had the Hurricane, it had Private Party, and Santana and Ortiz. So it had all your elements of fun for a TV show. But for this long-ass pay-per-view, I was just like, man, I really wish we could get some. And here's the other thing. And I know we're poking fun right now of where Tim is at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping. But Saturday was also a pretty monumental day, regardless of what side of the fence you're on in politics in America, taking into account all of the news of the day, then going into a pay-per-view at night. I felt like we could have tightened that up. With all that being said, I agree.
It's part of the reason my not so instant reaction was even not as instant as many times, because I watched, a presidential acceptance speech kind of, right, for several hours, and then the show, and then with the news, it was, we're as Americans, and I know for international, there's people dancing in the streets, you know what I mean? It's big time news. It's historical.
Yeah, and again, whatever side you're on, right or wrong, whatever you want to call it, like the future of this country was being told to us in the news, right? Mm-hmm. And so, again, not to say like that was the reason why I was so tired, but like that was a lot to take in. And then 3.5 hours, again, the length of a Lord of the Rings movie of wrestling. So that was my only...
A Monday Night Raw of wrestling.
Right, exactly. And who really is watching all of that minute?
And who likes that? Yeah.
Who likes that shit? No, we do. It's fine. But the matchups were great. The storytelling was really cool. I did do a second viewing of it, and on the second viewing, I think I left a little bit more excited with how good Full Gear is. So let's get into that. Mm-hmm. So we got Full Gear, happened on Saturday night, as I mentioned. There we go. Starting off, we had in the buy-in match, the NWA World Women's Championship, Serena Deeb versus Allison Kay. Allison Kay, the new free agent in pro wrestling for the women's side of wrestling. Right here with the pinky. I love Allison Kay. What'd you think of the buy-in match?
Good match. I just still, like you, I don't know what we're doing here with this whole setup, and it's hard to look past it watching the match going like, yeah, I don't know why I'm supposed to care. There's no reason. They've never been like, you've got to check out this NWA.
Mm-hmm.
And so why do
Here is my biggest criticism, not of this match, but of actually AEW, is post-match after Serena Deeb picks up the victory over Allison Kay, we see Thunder Rosa emerge from the back to essentially challenge Serena for a rematch for that championship, which is great storytelling, and we're building to something else. And then fast forward to the Nyla Rose and Shida match, and Shida wins, and let's get to something else. Like, the NWA women's match had more built upon it than your women's match. So that's, again, what are we doing with your women's division? And I'll just say this now since it's on top of mind as we continue to break this down. But on Dynamite, fast forward to Wednesday night on Dynamite, they had their 5-minute lip service of a women's wrestling match. It had some decent storytelling with the Dark Order trying to get her to use the chair, and she wouldn't, right? But there was no Serena Deeb. There was no Thunder Rosa. There was no Britt Baker. There was no Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose got slapped by Vicky Guerrero, and it never got mentioned on Wednesday night.
Yep. Nope.
Come on. What are we doing here? So anyhow,
she got slapped by Figueroa and then let her punk her out like that. Like, you know what I mean? Went into shamed dog. So it was like, whoa. That's why I said in my not so instant reaction, I was like, this is a abusive relationship now?
Well, and that's the thing. It's somewhat interesting to know, right? Like, I am intrigued. So good for that, right? I kind of shit on there is no storytelling post-match with Shida and Nyla Rose. There was a little bit, but it wasn't built upon. So again,
but it wasn't for Shida. It was for Nyla Rose. Which,
yeah.
Okay.
Right. But then Wednesday night, nothing happened. So that was the buy-in match. The NWA Women's Championship was featured. Serena Deeb picks up the victory. Now let's get into the proper pay-per-view portion of Full Gear. Kicks off with Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega. Winner becomes the number one contender, and the tournament winner. Oh man, I love this match.
The match was great. Yeah, the match was great, and it was good. I like that they went clean win for Kenny Omega for the cleaner, clean for the cleaner. Oh, yeah. And he's definitely on the way up. Adam Page is not, and that's where I've brought up several times, like, is that on purpose? Are we going to get this whole, like, a la MVP's losing streak kind of storyline, right? Down and out, Hangman, and then we all feel sorry for him. But I don't know. I mean, did that necessarily do great wonders for MVP? Is it going to do the same? You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about with Hangman Page? What would you do? What do you think they're going to do?
Well, see, yeah, this is the most interesting part post-match for me is, Kenny Omega, and then, again, fast forward, he's going to get the title shot against Jon Moxley. And so, right, you get the rematch of the most violent match in AEW history. That sells itself, right? Boom. Good. Awesome there. But for me, where does Hangman go? Does this disappointment drive him deeper into a darker funk, or does it motivate him? And all of a sudden, we don't see the beer in his hand. We see him riding horses more often. Like, is he lifting more weights? Is he going to get bigger, faster, stronger? Or can he not get behind the catering, drink bar, and it's time for his match, and he's not even in his wrestling gear. He's still in his street clothes. That's what's interesting. That's what I like. I thought, again, the match was really good. It was super physical. I loved how Kenny Omega had him in the one-winged angel, and Adam Page is fighting the entire time as he comes down, and then it lands, it hits, and that's it. No one's kicked out of the one-winged angel in AEW history. I love it. Keep it that way. Make it the Razor's Edge. But the great storytelling, and this was really, really good. Kenny Omega is your winner. On Wednesday night, as we fast forward to Dynamite, it was announced that on December 2nd, we're going to get Jon Moxley defending his AEW World Heavyweight Championship against the cleaner, Kenny Omega. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and I think early prediction is Omega walks away with this one. I think they're going to do that. It'll be on national TV. It'll look good. That's the initial reaction. Obviously, we have some storytelling to do.
Well, right, because again, his former BFF and tag team partner may cost him that match. We may get Hangman versus Kenny Omega 2 because of resentment. We might get a real heel out of one of the Elite members in Hangman Adam Page. Who knows? That's where the fun is. All right, so then after the amazing match between Omega and Page, we had Orange Cassidy versus John Silver, number 4. I did like this in your less than instant reaction, and I completely agree with you. Is he 4 or is he John Silver? Or is he John the 4 Silver or is he the 4 John Silver? What is this?
Stop with the numbers. Just stop with the numbers. Give me names. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Right? And if they've got minions. How about this? If they're wearing a mask, a number is fine.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to, you don't know who I am. Right? Mm-hmm. If I see your face, give me your name.
Yeah.
How about that?
Right? I agree. That's the part where and to a bigger extent, Dark Order is starting to become the second most disappointing thing for me in AEW behind their women's division. And it's because I don't know what they are anymore. They did this whole thing where if you're an outcast, a loser, pushed aside, come to this Dark Order, and Evil Uno and this Exalted One will come and rejuvenate who you are and bring you to a new,
It was the reject camp.
Yeah. And it brought people victories. Colt Cabana was going down that path of being a loser in AEW, gets into the Dark Order, starts winning matches. He's now rejuvenated, right? But then they kind of lose their way. And now we don't really know what they're doing. Then they refocus. Mr. Brody Lee becomes a TNT champion. They're beating people up backstage. They leave Cody and Brandy laying on the entry ramp. They look to be this dark cloud over AEW that was just going to, wash upon the evils of their ways across the entire AEW landscape.
Right.
And then Brody Lee loses, and now they're yuck, dun, 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 and it's, well, so what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, it's been disappointing. It has.
You watch these BTEs, being the elites, and they're just doing dick jokes, and John Silver's doing funny stuff. And again, that's fine. But is that what the Dark Order is? That's where I'm just confused.
You're not dark. Yeah, they're not dark. And the thing about a storyline with the Dark Order is it's supposed to be a cult gimmick. If a cult gimmick does not cause major problems, and like what you're seeing in WWE with Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, like if it's not causing those sorts of problems, if it's not, oh man, an evil person is going to take over the power of this company, then what are you doing? All right, that storyline doesn't make any sense outside of those parameters, to me at least. I've seen nothing else that works, right? If it's not about any individual person and the emotional tug of their friends losing them to this dark, evil person, or the dark, evil person is about to fucking cause havoc for everybody by seizing power, then what the fuck else is there? It's nothing, and that's why it fails. And that's why Bray Wyatt 1 failed. I agree. So that's what's happening to the Dark Order. And if they don't have something solid in one of those angles, or a new angle that I haven't thought about, it's time to cut bait and end that storyline, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. John Silver did look to be the part of what he currently is, where I ripped out Orange Cassidy's pockets. I did this one-handed suplex. I'm big and bad. I'm little guy. I'm a little pit bull. Isn't that cool? Cool, right? Like, that's cool. That's neat, and that's fine. But honestly, then throw him with Taz. That should be his mentor, the little fucking other guy that was doing all that shit. In Dark Order, again, if you watch these being elites, him and his other pals are playing grab ass and joking around, and that's cool, but is that what's getting the Dark Order over? Because what got over the Dark Order for me was the sinister, oh shit, watch your back. They're leaving people out on the entry ramp. They don't give a shit. They're going to cause a ruckus. Who knows what's going to happen? That was the part of Dark Order that got over for me. But it seems they're doing a course correct and saying, nope, we're going to be Doink the Clowns. And fuck that, man. I don't know. So anyhow, Orange Cassidy gets the victory. He continues to look like $1 million. Did his part here, in and out.
Well,
solid job.
But then later we see him get confronted by Kip Sabian and Miro, though, right? So they're kind of moving on with that, right? They're going to hone in on that, right? They slap him, and he just plays it off, right? Cool. And now we're going to get this match moving forward, which they kind of, again, we're teasing this with Best Friends and them, so it looks like that's what we got, right? Best Friends, Orange Cassidy up against this Miro.
That's a hard spot. That's a hard spot, though, because this is why I think it's a hard spot. Is Orange Cassidy is Orange Cassidy. He's going to be the coolest guy in any segment he's a part of because he's Orange Cassidy. Well, Miro is just starting to get his feet wet in AEW, and you're put him in a tough spot where he can't be cooler than Orange Cassidy. I don't know if he can do any other...
Yeah, because Miro's the cool guy.
Right. I don't know if he can do any funny things when Orange Cassidy no-sells all of it. That's a really tough spot for your first program. I mean, it's a great spot because it's not with Sean Spears. You know what I'm saying? But Orange Cassidy is a tough act if you're supposed to also be the guy that has the Bob Roode and I'm going to beat you until you fall and all those fun little jabs, and Orange Cassidy no-sells it. So I'm optimistic on that, but I don't know if I would have pulled the trigger on that. That seemed a little hard, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens. AEW so far hasn't had a huge strikeout in my book, except with the Mike Tyson thing, and we'll get into some celebrity stuff a little bit later. But going back to Full Gear, the next matchup was for the TNT Championship. It was Darby Allin versus Cody Rhodes, and in an upset, Darby Allin is your new TNT champion. What'd you think, Tim?
I like that, and I said this in my not so instant reaction on our YouTube page, that this is not the Cody Rhodes title anymore. I know we had a brief reprieve with Dark Order and Cody or Brody Lee, but this one feels like it's not going back to Cody Rhodes quickly, and I think this will be a move on for that, and I like that. I just don't know that Darby Allin is the kind of guy. We ran into this problem with Jeff Hardy. As you said, he's kind of the new Jeff Hardy. This guy holding a title doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and there's not a whole lot of storyline to add to him when he doesn't ever say anything. And I'm not concerned about him not getting beat up because he does weird things. I want the person who does weird things to get beat up. I'm sorry. But I'm a Midwestern American male who grew up in the 90s. That's what was bred into me.
Yeah, you wear an earring, you're going to get punched in the face.
Just kind of how I'm trying to be a better person, but that's what I want right now. So I don't feel sorry for him, if that's a deal. And is that even the best way to get over a face where his whole, the
sympathetic baby face, we'll see if that gets over for Darby Allin. As you mentioned, he doesn't say much, so it is somewhat difficult to get those emotions across to a more traditional or older viewer like ourselves. Post-match, I liked how Team Taz was like, fuck this. We've had enough. This is stupid. We've been back here long enough. This is the third fucking match. No one's calling us. No one's saying her name. We're going out there, and we don't like that fucking kid that has the paint on his face. And so we're going to kick his ass.
Dork.
Yeah, those fucking dorks. And then that one guy that always colors his hair. Hate that shit. And so they just go in there, and they beat the fuck out of him. They put Darby Allin through his own car. Cody gets beat up. Interesting to note, though, in both scenarios where Team Taz is fighting with Cody and Darby Allin, Will Hobbs shows up this late.
Just late when they're
Just
already gone.
late.
I
When
noticed that. Yep. I think
when the scenario
I think he may be
has
on
resolved.
Team Taz.
Yeah, when the scenario has resolved itself, Will Hobbs comes out. At first on Full Gear, I thought maybe he's a new guy. It was timing. Things in real life happen. You can't do take twos on live television. So I was thinking, okay, it was just kind of messed up. No big deal.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah,
the
it was
second
interesting.
week, when it happened, Team Taz was in the tunnel walking out, and then Will Hobbs comes out, rips up a perfectly fine T-shirt for no apparent reason.
For no reason. For no reason.
Just to show off his arms, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And Cody and Darby are like, hey, thanks, pal, but yeah. Hey, pat him on the
Thanks,
back.
guy.
He's learning. He's still learning.
Right.
I like Darby Allin if he can do more creative things as he did on Dynamite to have offense. So he wore the thumbtack jacket, and what he did was he just threw people, he threw Brian Cage in the corner and he just back bumped him with thumbtacks. Cool. I think if told correctly, and we may have already, hit the top of this storyline a few months ago, but where I think this story can be really good is if we get Ricky Starks, Darby Allin for the championship. If that's the crescendo of Darby Allin as champion, is this ultimate test against Ricky Starks, awesome. Then we've done a good job. To your point, though, let's say he does do that in 2 weeks. Who's Sammy Guevara? I mean, possibly, but you're going to have to really beat the shit out of Darby Allin because right now Team Taz is doing that currently. So yeah, it just, how many times can you tell the story of he gets the shit kicked out of him, but he'll win by a roll up?
Well, and this is jumping a little bit, but you did kind of mention it. So they jumped Cody Rhodes after, which we've got to talk about what was happening to Cody Rhodes prior to that, but they jumped him, and then Darby Allin comes to his rescue, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. The thing is, he's sitting up in those in the nosebleed seats, right? And then his music plays, right? Then his music plays when Cody Rhodes is getting beat up, and they see him coming down the aisle, and I'm like, I know we're in pro wrestling, and that's kind of the deal. Somebody's coming, their music hits, we're all trained like dogs to, oh my God. But was somebody in the truck watching Darby Allin up in the nosebleed seats the whole time to wait for him to stand up? And then what if he's going to take a shit? What if they're Darby Allin's going, and then he's just oh, no, guys, I'm going to get a beer.
Yeah,
I don't
care.
Him.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't care. I beat him. I beat him on Saturday. Why do I care now?
I gotta go fight this guy. Fuck! I was just trying to go get a fucking Pepsi.
Or production had a rule where if Darby Allin reaches section G, they're going to turn on his music.
If he takes 7 steps towards the
yeah, that's a
little
great
bit
call.
unbelievable, but all right, yeah.
Yeah. So the match itself at Full Gear really done well. Again, Darby Allin gets more of a surprise pin victory over Cody. Cody does the honorable thing and I guess proposes to Darby Allin, gets on one knee and hands him the title, which is a little much, but okay, cool. We'll go with it.
All right.
And then fast forward to Dynamite, as we mentioned, they end up brawling with Team Taz. But before that, Cody came out, had some announcements. One said he's going to go after MJF. And as soon as he gets MJF's name out of his mouth, a mysterious figure comes from, I guess, the wrestler area of the crowd. She comes in, interrupts Cody, doesn't do great, doesn't cut a great promo. She's not really hitting all of her marks.
No.
At one point, Cody looks at his watch as she's talking. Not a good sign.
No.
But she alludes to the effect that Cody has called himself the Giant Killer, and can he kill the biggest giant of them all? And then filler, it turns out to be Shaq. So
yeah.
What?
Yes. So, all right, let me start from the beginning, right? Cody's doing his thing. I don't even notice that somebody's up behind him. I just hear her talking, and I kind of like, because I was looking away, and I look up, and I was like, who in the hell is this person? And then at first I'm like, who in the hell is this person? She's like built like $1 million.
Yeah, she looks the part.
Fuck. And she was slow with her cadence, so I thought, oh, this is going to be like a dark, maybe, like a little mysterious. But then I was like, oh, no, she's just remembering her lines. So that kind of started taking away, and I was like, okay, but what is this? Who in the fuck is she talking about? And we had been kind of pre-prepped with this idea of we had a tweet from Tony Khan, right? And he said the balance of power is going to shift. So I'm like, oh, who is it, right? This is it. This is what he's been talking about, right? Because this crazy, weird-ass lady that we've never seen before is here. And then she starts to walk away, and then she just says, when the big reveal comes and she's going to say the name, she just goes, Shaq. Like, first of all, you chose the shortest version of his fucking name.
Well, she said and again, it was poorly delivered, but she said, hey, glad you finally got your last name. I know someone who can only go by one name, and it's Shaq. Like, that's how
Shaq.
Yeah. And so, yeah, not great. Now let's talk about the star of the segment, though.
Oh, my God.
The complete star of the segment. The
star of the night. The star of the night.
The first time I ever rewatched a Brandy Rhodes segment in my life, that wasn't because of
Tom. I wondered if it was real. I really was like, holy shit, she is mad. I was like, she's mad. Somebody didn't tell her that this girl that she doesn't like is on the show tonight, because holy shit.
Now, I will say my favorite part, the word heifer always makes me giggle. And no one ever says heifer like I do. It's always heifer. Hey, heifer. It was so good. The cursing, even before that, she gave out the word shit. Cody kind of grinned. It was like, it's okay. But then when Brandy comes out, it was bitch. Get off here, heifer. I'm going to smack you up. And then, so she cuts up the best promo of her life. I think, like you said, it could have been a shoot. Could have been a shoot the entire time.
Holy fuck. It was so good. She was so mad. Okay.
Yeah. However, the lady, and let me look up her name. We will fact check this one. What was her name?
Did they ever say?
Cargill. Yeah, she introduced herself. Jade Cargill. That's her name. Jade Cargill. After just being verbally undressed by Brandy, smacks her ass at the end of the segment. What the fuck is that? When have you ever seen someone get fired from a job and then give a good attaboy?
Well, I mean, I think it was like a hey, what are you going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
Which, okay, I just thought at that point Brandy Rhodes should turn out, and it should have been a brawl, and they had to pull her off.
Yeah, that's what that was the part where I was like, okay, well then Brandy, you have to beat. Now, Jerry Lynn did get in between them and all that.
He could have been quicker on the draw maybe then.
Yeah.
You know, like he could have been like, whoa, fuck, hold on, right? But goddamn, Brandy Rhodes fucking killed it. I watched that no less than 3 times immediately.
So here's where some questions come about. One, was the MJF call out just get you down the road from Cody?
Maybe,
Two, he did say he won't be seeking a rematch for Darby Allin's TNT Championship, but next week he will be teaming with him to take on Team Taz. 3, with Jade Cargill and Brandy Rhodes now apparently got beef, and she has, I guess, Shaq in her back pocket. Do we see a tag match with Jade Cargill and Shaq versus Cody and Brandy?
Maybe.
There's some interesting things. We've got some roads that we can go down. And where does Team Taz fall in that? Are they just going to focus on Darby Allin? Or are they going to say, hey, Shaq, if you need some backup, I got Brian Cage here, you know, Taz will be cutting a promo on Shaq's kneecap because you can't look him in the eye. But is that what happens here? It's interesting. It was a really drawn out storyline with a lot of things bumping into each other.
She told her, get your trifling ass to the back and don't come back out until I send for you. I was like, God damn. I was like, this is fucking amazing. Yeah, Brandy Rhodes.
She was great.
fucking promo of the night and maybe even the weekend, right? Like, it was one of the best moments of the whole Full Gear Dynamite weekend for me. I was like, jeez, I had never, ever in my life. We've seen Brandy Rhodes acting chops before, and, I mean, never been floored. This is amazing.
And just to recap again, I think my favorite line was, "Who said that this was open mic night, bitch?"
Yeah. Well, because she was like fucking already coming out with the headband. I was like, "Oh fuck!"
I think we're wrapping up 2020, thank God. But I think that could be the female promo of the year. I can't think of another. That was on par.
It was so real.
Yeah, that was on par with AJ cutting down the Bellas. With Becky Lynch's most impassioned man, the man promos that she had during her run. That was up there. Honestly, that was up there. Now, Brandy as the character and everything else, but that was incredible. All right, let's get back to Full Gear recap and a little bit of Dynamite, as you can tell. The next match on Full Gear after the TNT Championship was the Women's Championship match, Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose. We mentioned Nyla Rose on the losing end of this match and then also getting slapped from Vicky Guerrero. It was a good match, though. I will say it was a very solid match. When these two, if you need 10 to 15 minutes of a match from anyone, putting these two in the ring doesn't hurt.
Physical. Both of them
physical, believable.
Hikaru Shida brings a punch to her. I will give him all that, but I don't remember anything about this match anymore. Like, I remember the post-match stuff, I mean, some of the match, obviously, but it's not going to stick out. Like, by tomorrow, I'll remember less of it, but I'll remember this slap afterwards. And that's where we talk about the storyline being a little more interesting, but that's what I'm missing with Shida. Nothing has sunk in yet of a storyline that I'm like, I want her to fucking beat this person's ass, or I want somebody to beat hers, So I'm more interested in Nyla Rose and where that goes, and Vicky Guerrero. And I mean, I think we can probably deduce where some of it goes. So I'm not necessarily, what happens next, like I am with the Brandy Rhodes Shaq weird, like what happens with that, right? It was good enough. Again, worthy of its spot on a card, I guess.
Yeah, worthy of a championship match on any promotion, I felt. But again, to your point, nothing to dive in on as far as analysis or even memorable moments. So let's move on to what I thought was the second best match of the night. It was for the AEW Tag Team Championships. The Young Bucks challengers taking on, at the time, champions FTR. This was cool. So many little details about this match made it awesome. FTR coming out in the green, a la Boston Celtics. Young Bucks coming out in the purple and gold, a la the Lakers. So you have a Celtics-Lakers kind of built-in rivalry. And for international listeners who may not be sports fans either, Lakers Celtics go back to the 60s. This is a rivalry.
They've faced each other in the NBA Finals 20 times or some weird number.
It's some incredible number, but their rivalry goes back, generations. There's grandfathers that hate each other over the Celtics and Lakers. It's that real. So I love the little details just as far as visual presentation, and I loved how it was two styles essentially saying we're the better of the two styles. You had the 1980s FTR with the snapmares and body slams and quick tags and double team moves. And then you had the Young Bucks with their early 2000s, amazing red, Ricochet, Will Ospreay types of triple backflips, like we're doing things on a trampoline and just going back and forth.
No contact wrestling.
Right, exactly. But that was also another cool contrast, right? So you had Matt Jackson's foot injury versus the bald FTR guy. I can't remember their names. Bald FTR guy and his hand injury. It's the exact opposite,
I don't know their fucking names either. I just know the bald guy and the other one. Yeah. I know the bald guy and the other one.
Yeah, it's the fat bald guy and the buff hairy one. That's their names.
I thought that was our name.
So I loved how the story was being told, and the thing that cost FTR the match was they wanted to get cute, air quotes cute, and do a move from the top rope, and that's what cost them. They got out of their bread and butter, shot themselves in the foot. Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson take advantage. They become your new tag team champions. This was really good. What is interesting, though, is what does that mean going forward? So we built all of this time since FTR came into AEW to this match, right? It was Hangman and Kenny Omega as the champs. They had their inner turmoil, but it was FTR kind of in the background, stirring the pot. Young Bucks also intertwined in that storyline. Hangman and Kenny Omega dissolve into what they're doing right now. So then we, build up to this amazing crescendo of a match. Awesome, cool. We got new champions. And next week on Dynamite, the Young Bucks take on Top Flight.
Yep.
For as strong as this division is on paper, you've shot your wad with Best Friends. They've already had 2 championship title matches, so you can't really say they're next. The Nightmare Family or whatever they're called, they had a good win, and we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, it's a 62-year-old man and a guy who looks like he's 82, so they're not fucking believable. Santana and Ortiz lose every single time they're tagging together, so they're not believable. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, that'd be fun, but where do they fall with the Young Bucks who seem like they're baby faces? So what I'm getting at is you built all to this match. Now what's next?
Yeah, I thought the match was great. Like you said, the blending of the styles worked amazing. And the fact that they didn't just pick a style and go with it. They were trying to compete with each other, which is kind of what this whole storyline before they were in this company existed was about. It was, no, fuck you, man. We do the real thing. And it was like, fuck you, call it the real thing. Just grow up, right? Times change, right? That was kind of it was the whole, fuddy-duddy versus the new, new kids on the block storyline. It always has been, and that was cool, and I liked it. Same thing. What do we do here? FTR, that was their whole existence in coming into this company, and their whole storyline was, we're better than the fucking Young Bucks. Fuck off. It was basically their whole that's been their whole demeanor. So I don't know what they do now, and maybe that's part of what they do is that gets acknowledged with Tully, and we lead into this 4 horseman group that's never going to happen that everybody keeps talking about. So, or
maybe this is when we pull the trigger, because as we alluded to, there's another guy out there who we don't know what he's doing next, and that's Hangman Adam Page. And him and FTR, they were good friends before everything fell apart for all 3 of them. Tully could be that glue that gets them to reunite. Post-match in this, though, was
a great fit. Hangman, FTR, Tully, and then what are we going to say? Cody?
Sean Spears.
Or you just Sean Spears?
Yeah.
Who's leading that group? Hangman? He's that guy?
Yeah. Well, you have Sean Spears say he is, and then through, trials and tribulation, it's Hangman Adam Page. But post-match was also another really cool piece of storytelling. So the Young Bucks get the victory. They're on top of the world. Their best friend, Kenny Omega, runs out. They're celebrating. All is well. Everything is great. And then in the entryway, in the tunnel, is Hangman Adam Page with a tear in his eye, looking like he just saw his dog get hit by a car, standing there all alone. Oh, Tim, that pulled on my heartstrings. I wanted to buy a cowboy hat.
It was good.
I wanted to buy a cowboy hat and just be on a horse and just say I'm doing cowboy millennial shit.
Yeah, we're getting sad drinky Page, man. We're getting tear in my beer.
Yeah.
In fact, that's going to be his new theme song, the Tear in My Beer song, right? Like, that's just going to be it, man. So, I like that a lot. That was cool. That was a good touch.
Oh, God.
It was a nice bow on everything, right?
It gives you more seeds to plant with and go and see where we want to take this next story. That was perfect. Mwah. It was a chef's kiss. Good. Right there. Mwah. So good. All right. Well, it wasn't so good, as I mentioned, and I don't want to shit on it even more, But after the tag match, then you did have the ultimate deletion. Matt Hardy wins. The only thing I'll say that I haven't said so far is the end was extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, they killed him and disposed of his body.
Well, but then they didn't because then Wednesday night he was at the beach, and we'll get into MJF and Chris Jericho in just a second.
It didn't appear that way. It appeared you killed him. And you disposed of his body. And the whole thing, Private Party was out of place. They don't fit on this Hardy compound with this cast of weirdos. They're club guys. You can't be this gimmick. If you were going to be Matt Hardy and he was going to mentor you, then you should have stopped being Private Party. You know, like a la Jeff Hardy became Brother Nero. They should just become something else and get him, dive in, expand your character. But you don't fit here. You're jumping around looking like the Street Profits in the fun house. You know, like it just doesn't fit.
Perfect. That's perfect.
It just really doesn't fit. So that one was bothering me. And then just, like, okay, how many times are we going to see this? And then what's the point? Sammy Guevara is the butt of every weird way to beat the shit out of somebody joke that we've done in AEW. And how am I going to take him seriously as the Spanish God when it was, oh, yeah? Well, all I've got to do is stick a screwdriver in your ear and fucking, toss you down a flight of stairs and I'll win this match. And like that's how he always gets the fucking weird shit. He gets the 100 suplexes. He gets the whatever.
The golf cart. He gets ran over by a golf cart.
Which is okay, which is cool, right? But again, are we risking Santino with Sammy Guevara? And I don't think he's the talent you should do that with. So I didn't like any of this. And Matt Hardy looking like a serial killer. Now what are we gonna do with that? Because now he's out next, Dynamite is just like, oh, everything's great. Like fuck.
Yeah. Right.
What did we waste this time for?
That was my only misfire from this pay-per-view. But let's move on. A match that I thought suffered from that, and because of how long this pay-per-view was the next match, and that was MJF versus Chris Jericho. So I thought this match suffered for a couple of reasons. As I mentioned, the placement of the card was pretty late, so they were starting to kind of get a little stir crazy, the crowd that is. And there wasn't much crowd as it was, right? So you had to keep them engaged fully to get the reactions you're wanting. And also it was heel versus heel, and all their dinner dates and fun songs and town halls are fun, and that makes you laugh. But in a wrestling match, they're both bad guys, so who do you care to root for? It sounded like Jericho.
You're passively watching, though.
Yeah, you're passively watching because you're like, I don't give a shit. And then MJF gets the victory, but post-match, it was as if none of it mattered. Mm-hmm. Jericho raises his hand. They're hugging. This is the best. Instantly, my favorite part of this whole storyline, the newest part of this storyline that's turning into my favorite, I should rephrase that, is Wardlow and Jake Hager are just mean mugging. Just
they don't trust each other at all. Yeah.
Oh, MJF and Jericho are playing grab ass in the park, and Wardlow and Jake Hager haven't blinked at each other. It's perfect. It's I'm bigger and badder than you. We'll prove it one day.
Nice touch, again, the fine details, and this is what I was alluding to earlier in this segment, is when they've got their plane tickets, and we got that screenshot, the photo that they sent out. Everybody's got their plane tickets. Ortiz and Guevara, they're like,
this is stupid.
This sucks. Santana's like, hey, this is cool, right? Jericho and MJF are happy as shit, and then Wardlow and Hager are mean mugging each other. Like the fine little details, they all know how to play their part well. I liked the ending. He did the Eddie Guerrero ending without the fake noise, right? Like, I like that little twist on it, right? He just knows the referee's about to turn down and gives him the double bird, and you did it to yourself. Wham, fall back, and now it's done. And then Jericho's like, all right, fuck it, he got me. Fuck him. Yeah. You're in, right? Like, I love it. I liked it, how it went out. You're right. It felt a little slow. It was like, we could have already been, let's pick this up a little bit. But I like where the storyline's going, but we knew where this was going, so this match was never really holding my interest,
And that's another thing. I think we all knew where the end point was, so we could have maybe sped this up a little bit or done something. I just thought this match suffered the most for the placement of the card and how long the pay-per-view was. As you alluded to, though, on Dynamite, we got the induction of MJF and Wardlow into the Inner Circle. This is the one segment, and this is the one part of Dynamite that I would have changed. And this is why. Very much like Orange Cassidy, make me miss you. Make me... This was good, but all this did was tell me to watch next week because they're in Vegas. And they'll probably do some more songs and dances and all that stuff. And that's fine, and I bet you that's going to be great. But this felt like filler. And as I just talked about with your AEW struggling women's division, this is where you could have put Britt Baker. This is where you could have put Big Swole. Big Swole's the number one contender, and I felt like I haven't seen her since that doctor's match. This is where you could have put Nyla Rose. This is where you could have put your champion. This is where you could have put the NWA champion. And instead, we got a fun...
Instead of like MJF and Wardlow, maybe they should have done something like adding a Britt Baker to the inner circle and thus giving some credence to women's storylines.
Something,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Dynamite got, again, as I mentioned, their 5-minute lip service match. And this segment was good, but you could have done that in a backstage segment of 2 minutes. It could have been Jericho saying, hey, we all need to get out there to the ring. We got to put MJF and Wardlow in the group. And it could have just been like MJF saying, hey, I know everyone hates me. So you know what? It's on me. And then just done the tickets and we got it there.
I like him ripping off Drake. And he's like,
but not
I don't even
knowing
know
who
this Drake guy is.
Yeah.
Look, I started from the bottom and now I'm here.
And again, great. It was good. It was good. Yeah. And everything is still entertaining, but make me miss you. Make me put in the Britt Baker, put in the Sheeta, put in the Nyla Rose. You're building that. And then I can come on this podcast, the number one podcast recorded on Thursday night, and say, oh man, they said next week it's going to be Jericho and MJF in Vegas. Isn't that going to be fun? And we could have had some anticipation towards that. Now I'm saying I'm still anticipating it and looking forward to it, but it's a different type of anticipation. So I don't want to be too much of a curmudgeon, but that's my one criticism is make me miss you a little bit. All right, now let's get into the Full Gear pay-per-view main event, an I Quit match, Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston. Holy good Christ, how violent was this match?
Very violent. And I'm going to go to our hashtag tweet the tables. Like I said, we did have some from the same guy. At BDD4, a longtime friend of the show, says, you have no idea how badly I want Eddie Kingston to win tonight. Hashtag AEW Full Gear, hashtag tweet the table. And I did too, but I just knew it wasn't going to happen. Like they were not going to crown Eddie. Like we talked about this. Right now they're still in this mode of, hey, everybody in the world, look at us. There's this new wrestling company. Remember Jon Moxley, in quotes? Remember Chris Jericho? So, remember Cody Rhodes? Like they're not going with somebody like an Eddie Kingston right now. I think this did make him look tough.
This looked great.
Maybe again? I think you could run an Eddie Kingston face angle with an everyman thing, and maybe they're angling that way with some of the stuff that comes out.
They were so close. I think they flirted with it. And then let's get in. So let's really quick give this match its respect. Some of the cool spots that I thought was how Jon Moxley took the barbed wire across his forearm to then choke choke Eddie Kingston to say I quit. But Eddie Kingston did the thumbtack thing, which we've seen 9 million times. And, I'm not the biggest independent pro wrestling fan, and I only see really independent pro wrestling moments if they go viral. But I had yet to see someone throw someone into thumbtacks and then say, here's the salt in the wound. I'm putting rubbing alcohol on your fucking body.
Yeah, that was rough. This one got real bloody, and they even got bloody on Dynamite with another match. But
the Buckhouse one.
Yeah. And I just kind of was like, so for me, the hardcore matches in 2020 just feels a little off. It's a little much. And then especially when it's so much blood, I'm like, I don't know that the storyline necessarily needed it, but this is a major part of these guys' real life story is these kind of matches. So I kind of let that one go in my personal taste, and not that, you know what I mean? Not that I hate it by by default or on principle or anything, but I just kind of was like, they could have done without it. Because anybody necessarily watching from the outside might be like, ooh, it's a little disquieting, right? Like it's a little much. But that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be brutal. It was supposed to be a fight to the near death because neither one was going to give up. So, okay. We knew Eddie Kingston was going to – I just wonder how they were going to get there because it seemed like Eddie Kingston is the guy, even though he's the heel, still that conviction of like, I ain't quitting. You better kill me because I will go with half an eyeball hanging out of my head to try to kill you, man. Like, this ain't going to stop ever.
So let's fast forward to Dynamite. I felt somewhat like you did where post-match of the Full Gear championship match that he had, we're going to go Eddie Kingston, Everyman, John Moxley diet John Moxley, where he's a little bit fatter. He's not as fast, but he's still going to give it 110% every time. We go into the main event. Yeah, he's a fighter. I'm a fighter. But we go into the main event. It's Pentagon versus Phoenix. And Eddie is just throwing, but it's Eddie this one served a purpose. So the first one was for a tournament match.
Yep.
The second one was, hey, let's see who the better man is because Phoenix got hurt. Let's do it again, pal. Let's run it back, brother.
Sure.
But the entire time through commentary, Pentagon would do something to Phoenix and Eddie was like, "Dad, that's hardcore. That's hard-nosed wrestling. That's how you do it." Phoenix would do something to Pentagon, his best friend, and he's crossing the line. I don't know why he's ripping at his mask. Why is he doing that? And then post-match, Pentagon picks up the victory because now they're 1-1. One brother has each a victory. And Eddie Kingston pushes with his foot Phoenix out of the ring. And then it's just like, hey, me and you, pal. Me and you. And as soon as we almost get a decision, the bastard Pac arrives. Oh, I was so happy for this.
So many of those weird angles, right? Because, now Eddie Kingston's getting in between the brothers that were part of this, what do they call it? The Death Triangle.
Death Triangle with Pac.
And so maybe is that it? Maybe Pac's going to steal these guys back from the family, which is a little bloated. You know what I mean? It felt a little bloated and just a lot of puzzle pieces that weren't connected, right? Like you have the Butcher and the Blade who are like weird, rural serial killers. And then you've got the Lucha Bros. And then you've got, the Bunny, and then he's there. And it's just, it was a weird group. So maybe that's what we're doing with that. Maybe they're going to fight. Because I don't see them splitting up the Lucha Bros to just have those guys go in single competition. Well, what avenue is there for them to have anything in single competition? I don't.
Well, they could go for the TNT championships. That could be a real good.
I almost feel like they need a third title. Like at this point, like there's so many folks.
Well, they're getting a third hour in 2021, so look forward to that. But with this, when Pac comes out and he gets in Eddie Kingston's face, Eddie, to his credit, knew exactly, he knew Pac wasn't going to go in there to hug everyone. He knew, this motherfucker hates me, right? Because he said, "Where's your little British friend?" And that was alluded to in the previous week's promo from Pac, who was in isolation, right? And so Pac comes in, security immediately security and officials immediately get in between. They're doing their jaw jacking at each other. The one quick detail that the camera caught and showed us, but then went right away from, was when Pac came into the ring and Eddie Kingston and him had their face off, Pentagon rolled out to the outside of the ring and Phoenix was on one side and Pentagon was on the other, and they're staring at each other. And if you looked at it from afar, it was as if you drew a straight line this way, and it was Pac and Phoenix, and you drew another line this way, and it was Pentagon and Eddie Kingston. So maybe that's the tag match that we're going to see. Brothers torn apart, families torn apart, triangles now put into squares. It's fucking cool. This was awesome. I was like, I was fucking pumped. Love this shit.
Because I was beginning to wonder. I was like, why is this the main event? Why are we ending on this? And then the Pac thing is like, okay, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
We're starting to roll.
So apparently, peeking behind the curtain, when Pentagon and Phoenix did wrestle, it had a huge number for them as far as a rating. So they wanted to try to bounce off of that again. So maybe that's why they put it in the main event. And then to your point, Pac was the big reveal. Awesome, right? Cool. That was great. For me, I like Pac. If I was a pro wrestler, I would be a combination of Eddie Kingston and Pac. I would be a bastard like Pac, but I would have the physique of Eddie Kingston. Like that would be me 100%.
Would have the physique of Eddie Kingston.
So let's touch on some other things that happened on Dynamite that we didn't cover on Full Gear, because some matches happened that we want to at least address. You started off Dynamite with Matt Sydal and Brian Cage. Brian Cage, good Christ. If you have a Matt Sydal at home, just bench press that motherfucker and you'll look like Brian Cage. Did you see the moves he was doing with them? With the curls, and then he caught him like Bobby Lashley and Kenny King in Impact. Brian, this is when Brian Cage, I know the FTW champion is what it is and all that stuff, but this is where you got to get him back towards maybe not Moxley territory, but top of my head where I would go is you have Dark Order get serious, and then you have Taz get pissed, and Team Taz is this disgruntled group of bastards, and you put Brian Cage and Brody Lee in a match, and that's some fucking shit I want to see.
Yeah, because Brody Lee can go for his size too, man. He can do some shit that, yeah.
Ooh, and Matt Sydal, to his credit, sold his ass off. I love Matt Sydal, personal reasons. He's a mentor to Sharkbait, so I'm saying that with a little bit of bias in my heart. But I like this match a lot. We had Cody make his announcement. We talked about that. Then we had that bunkhouse match, the Natural Nightmares, that's their name, and the Bunny and the versus the Butcher and the Blade. It says the Bunny and the Blade, but it's the Butcher and the Blade. You alluded to this. This was violent. This was bloody. I liked it, but as a fan, I'm so sorry. This seems like if we were doing an ECW podcast in 1997 and I were to listen back to that now, I would tell you back in 97, man, what the fuck are we doing Terry Funk, right? He's so fucking old. Like, can we just move on? Now it's 2020. You go back and watch those things. You're like, Terry Funk was the fucking shit, man. What the hell are you thinking? I kind of feel the same way about Dustin Rhodes. Right now, get him off the fucking TV. I don't care to see him. I know he's not going to be champion. I don't get why he's wearing cowboy boots and painting his face. That kind of is weird. And so I'm not interested in him, but this was really cool, you know?
Yeah, well, he is weird. Is Dustin Rhodes, whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the match itself just, again, was one of those where I was like, wow, that was really vicious, but I don't know what the purpose of any of it was and what I'm supposed to take from it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess the whole beef is QT Marshall losing the Bunny back to the Butcher and the Blade. Sure. And it ended with the Bunny going through a table, which was missed by the camera. Great job with production. Take camera 3. I meant camera 2. Oh, shit, we're late. Anyhow. So I got it. We got the payoff of the Bunny leaving QT Marshall. I just don't know how violent it was, if that should have been the payoff.
Well, and furthermore, were they so out of touch to think that anybody gave a shit about the Bunny and QT Marshall storyline? Nobody cared.
Yeah.
No, I've heard nobody tweet about it. Like, I don't know what the fuck that is. So we didn't need a payoff for it. So maybe that was, I don't know.
Some other things that happened that we have not covered yet that I want to talk about. Scorpio Sky took on Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears does the evil tactic with loading up the glove, knocks out Scorpio Sky, picks up the victory. Looks like we're going to continue this feud, I would assume. It was good to see some fresh faces. I will say that. It was good to see someone, and I love them, but it was good to see someone other than Cody, MJF, Chris Jericho, Eddie Kingston. Those are my guys, and I love them to death, and I want to see them. But sometimes your roster's so big, I forget that you have a Shawn Spears, you know?
Yeah, well, and Shawn Spears is doing nothing. I mean, he may be doing something, but what is it? Like, we don't know anything with him, and there's nothing to his character. He's bounced back and forth between these micro gimmicks, you know, each week, and it's starting to be do something or I'm going to check out completely. So that's how I feel with Spears. Yeah.
I agree. But it was good. Like I said, it was good to see a fresh matchup that had a payoff. And it did have a couple weeks of storytelling to it. Wasn't necessarily the greatest storytelling, but it was better than nothing. So I assume we'll see that rivalry continue. As I mentioned, the women's match of the night was Red Velvet versus Ty Conti. Ty Conti was the one who was given the chair from the Dark Order, and she decided not to use it, but still picked up the victory. We'll see if she maybe flirts with joining the Dark Order. Maybe we get a female Dark Order tag team. If that's the case, let's hope that they're not a comedy act and they do something serious here. But it was okay. It was fine.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel exactly the same. So, I don't,
Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, the main event, Pentagon versus Rey Fenix. I was so happy with it. I liked it. I'm interested in it because I have a soft spot for the people involved. I know some people have said on our Tweet the Tables and things like that, just cover AEW because you don't like WWE. I think maybe if this was WWE guys, I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing here? Who cares, right? But they're not, so fuck off. I liked it. So that was AEW this week. Video game news, pay-per-view, one of the better ones of the year, and a really great Dynamite. One other thing I wanted to mention about Dynamite, it felt like a season premiere. If you notice, there was a new intro, there were new graphics, there were new
it might be a season premiere. It's that time of year, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. It doesn't have an off season, so it's hard to call a pro wrestling show a season premiere. But it looked like a brand new presentation.
There's a standardized cable television weeks that are seasons, and I think November is one where it turns over, if I'm not mistaken. I just don't know when. But yeah, I mean, AEW, a lot of great things this week, from the pay-per-view and the show. I think they way more good than bad, very little bad, to be honest. Yeah.
Very little bad. And the very little bad is just from my high expectations for the promotion. That's really where they're falling short, is I just want so much more because they do so well. So let's transition out of AEW, kind of do a quick drive-by of WWE, NXT. Anything catch your eye with that?
So, what's the guy's name?
Leon Ruff?
Yeah, how about
Leon Ruff. I tell you what, this shows that in WWE, if you pay your dues, you might get a payoff. Because if you remember early quarantine WWE, it was Leon Ruff gets thrown from one corner to the other by Braun Strowman. And then it was Leon Ruff takes a black mass from Aleister Black. And then it was Leon Ruff takes a spear from Bobby Lashley. So he went through all of that fucking bullshit. He was an Evolve guy. One of the nicest guys that I met when I was out there on my bachelor party. Super helpful, really nice, had great conversations with him in Detroit, Chicago. So again, another soft spot for me with this guy, but gets a surprise win over Johnny Gargano, who cannot defend his North American championship.
Any championship. I love that they're doing this. I love that they're doing this with him. Yes, I love that he rigged the wheel to be Leon Ruff to try to not do this curse, and it still happened. And I love that Damian Priest is like, hey, get out of here. He's about to come back and kick your ass. And then they're all making fun of him when he comes back, looking for him.
Yeah.
Oh, so great.
Johnny Gargano is really morphing into this character way better than I ever thought. I really thought as a heel Johnny Gargano, he would have been the Four Seasons Lawn and Garden, and he is turning into the Four Seasons Hotel. It is just so good. The work he's doing as a heel in NXT. I just cannot praise him enough because it is so fun. He's trying to reverse the decision to William Regal because a wheel was what dictated the person he would face.
I hate wheels. I wouldn't do this.
Everyone knows I hate wheels. Wheels are stupid. Yeah, he was.
But I love that Damian Priest the whole time he's like, "You did this, idiot!
You idiot! You're an idiot!
You did this. Yeah. You set it up. You called the match. You made it official. Like, you're an idiot." Oh yeah, I love all of it. Johnny Gargano is great. He's so good at what he does. Yeah.
Well, and another guy in a heel role that makes me laugh, that's doing great things, Pat McAfee. Again, closing out the show. I like his promo where he says the Pat McAfee brand was just evaluated at $150 million. He's like, not a bad day. Not a bad day. He took a private jet, almost didn't land the bird because we're going into a hurricane in this shithole town of Orlando. And then when I believe it was Fandango that was laying on the announce table, and he lines up the kick. He's like,
Yeah.
and just, whoa, gives him the big kick to the chest. He's great. I just like him so much.
He's so good. He's got potential to be like main eventing WrestleMania within a year if he were to come like do this full time.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
So good.
And the other thing that I feel they're allowing him to do because he can do it is none of his promos feel scripted. It's,
Right.
hey, we just want you to say Undisputed Era sucks. Or we want you to say Killian Dane can't hang with
If
us.
they're scripted,
and then he just goes out there and does it.
Yeah, if they're scripted, he wrote the large portion of them because it's just him. It is Pat McAfee. It's his demeanor. It's his style of speaking. It's his way he fucks with people. He's great.
I will say this, though. Caution to Pete Dunne. Maybe back off the spray tan. You're starting to look a little weird.
Yes. Yeah, you're looking orange, but like an orange gray. You know what I mean? That's weird.
He looks like a bodybuilder. His physique is impressive. I'm not saying his physique's not impressive. And I'm not saying he's going to be a bodybuilding Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. But when you watch those bodybuilding competitions, it's 700 pounds of this fucking shit on their body.
It's weird how somebody can be
weird.
orange and brown at the same time.
Yeah. It's
you know?
so weird. It's like if you had a bad shit.
Bronze.
Yeah, but it's like if you had a bad shit of Doritos, that brown orange. It's just a weird, shitty Dorito looking color on his body. And I don't like it.
Pete Dunne looks like somebody shit Doritos, is what you're saying.
Yep.
We should make sure somebody gets this to Pete Dunne.
Oh my God.
I'm a fighter. What are you gonna...
I'm a fighter. Yeah.
I'm a fighter.
I don't care. What is he going to do? I'll sue his ass, motherfucker. Huh? Look at these hands. Yeah. These hands are rated E for everybody, you motherfuckers.
Right. Yeah.
No, don't hit me, please. NXT was good. WWE side, you had Roman Reigns still killing it with his Roman Reigns gimmick.
That was good. Nothing new or like flashy that like to write home about. Raw really was hard to stomach the whole show. Like all of it was pretty bad for me.
I felt like Raw was hey, watch next week. I thought it was a whole promo to watch next week. Because next week, we're going to get, for the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, right? And then we're going to get some payoffs of Alexa Bliss blew the flowers in Nikki Cross's face, so I assume we're going to get a match. I just felt like it was a whole promo of, we ain't got nothing this week. Come back next week.
What is with the damn dysfunctional family of the Raw Survivor Series team? All of that was trash. Like I know what they were trying to pull off, but they just aren't good at it, that mix of characters. Hey, I like the angle of what they're doing with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, though, right? Something subtle's going on there, and I'm interested where that goes.
Yeah. Heels and baby faces in a promo together, not necessarily wanting to kill each other, is interesting because in the world of WWE, it's always, I'm good, well, I'm bad, well, we must fight. And this is Sheamus saying, hey, I'm going to fucking
go get a pint.
Roll you up. Yeah, I'm going to hold the ropes. I'm going to do whatever I can. And Drew McIntyre is not all American, but he is the hero of the masses.
He's the hero,
that does the right thing. And here they are friends. That is fascinating to me. I like that. That was a highlight. Alexa Bliss, as I mentioned, essentially just telling Nikki Cross, middle finger.
Yeah, because she was like, it's time to choose. You or me? And she was like, okay. I'll choose him.
What What a heartbreaking moment for Nikki
I choose
Cross.
him over you, who hasn't been around for fucking weeks. So it wasn't a tough decision, even if I'm not crazy and brainwashed. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What a heartbreaking moment for Nikki Cross. Because to your point, there was no deep thought. It was as
no
automatic.
Moment of realization. No pit in her stomach. No, just.
It was glee.
Oh, yeah, good. I'm glad you brought this up because I'd like you to fucking go now. Choose him. I'm glad you finally came out.
Yeah, it was as if she was wanting to break up this friendship but didn't want to do it. So when she heard this is her chance, she fucking jumped. Yeah, that was really fun. As you mentioned, though, Raw was pretty difficult. But again, it's 3 goddamn hours, man.
Yeah, I mean, I did like that Titus O'Neil comes out to fight, and he was like, hey, look, I'm going to give you a pass, mostly because you're a good dude, like with your charity work. Let's get the fuck out of here. And he was like, no, I'm not. And he was like, okay. I guess we got to beat the shit out of you then.
Damn
Love
it.
that. Like that a lot, yeah. And again, if it's COVID times, we don't have everybody on deck. Titus O'Neil, it fits, right? Hey, you embarrass me. I like how he's like, hey, try to go in above the, or what did he say? Like, try to make it in the ring this time.
Yeah, try to make it in the ring.
The match is in the ring, not under it.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. God, it's fun. Yeah, so I mean, there were some little nuggets of highlights, but man, they're slow and dull a lot these days.
That is the case.
Yeah.
But AEW was great. And again, we got some good things to look forward to with that. As we mentioned at the top of the show, if you have any thoughts, share them with hashtag tweet the table. If you want to do a longer form communication with us, send an email to thetableshow@gmail.com, or you can go to our brand new website, SpanishTownstable.net. You can see all of our social media, and you can contact us via email. Hit us up there.
You can donate to the show on there if you want.
Donate
you can buy
to the
stuff.
show.
We have merchandise.
Obviously, Tim needs some travel to get back.
I added masks to the store, to the Zazzle store. Go to the website, SpanishAnnounceTable.net. There's 2 masks you can buy on the Zazzle store. There's some other stuff. You know, I mean, there's shirts, there's mugs. I'm going to pull this up right now, too. Shop right here. Shop. Oh, no, where'd they go? Did I not release them yet? Okay, so maybe coming soon.
Coming soon. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to get some.
Where'd they go? All right, so maybe they're not live yet. Check within a
but
day or
they
two.
will be by the time this episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
There'll be some, because, you know, it's COVID times.
Yeah, right. But Tim, now I see him. Oh, I'm so happy.
Right,
yeah,
they're right
great.
there, dumbass. Yeah. I spent a good 30 minutes. Where the fuck are these masks? Get a little pissed off here. I was under the impression there were masks. So, you know what I blame? I blame the Four Seasons Total Landscaping and their shitty Wi-Fi. So we'll leave it at that. Well, thanks to our sponsors, Four Seasons Total Landscaping, and we'll see you next week.
The Spanish Announce Table.